Wait, welcome back to the X Podcast. I am here with Mr. Moore.
Yes, Mr. Moore.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Doing great.
You know what?
Gearing up for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh,
We're close.
yeah? Have you done all your shopping?
Most.
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 Who do you still have to shop for?
I think we just have a few gift cards and things to buy for some people. I've done most.
Are you a Christmas person?
Yeah. I mean, why? Yeah. Yes, I am.
You know why?
I do like
Here's
Christmas.
why you just hesitated. Is because
What?
you don't have an ounce of nostalgia in your bones.
That is
So
not...
there is not.
Okay,
So
first of all, that is not true.
It's 100%
There's a
true.
No, it is not true.
The other day we're standing right over there, and I'm not going to give away all our conversations, but
Trade secrets.
but you said something. You got mad at me because you said,
What?
yeah, the other day I was starting to feel this thing that I didn't know how to name, and I was like,
No, stop.
It's what's called emotion.
Okay. Do you hear the harassment I have to deal with, Lydia?
Listen, it's an inspiration. If you're watching this,
No, it's not.
so sometimes you wonder what people are like behind scenes. I can actually confirm
No.
that I don't know that I've ever seen you have a bad day. That's what I was telling you.
That's so
In
not
the
true.
4 years I've known you,
I've had at
ever
least
seen you
3
have a
bad days in my year.
I was laughing because you know what you actually said? You go, I can look back a few years ago and notice a couple moments. And I was like, oh, a couple moments. There are a couple, like,
Well,
10 minutes blocks.
you know
where
what?
You're like, you know what?
You know what? I don't allow bad things to ruin my day.
That's great.
So I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I
It's great.
some would say I compartmentalize things, and then I just I have
You think
I have,
it's
that-
good and
I have a
bad?
job to do. I have tasks to do. I go at it. I get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's bad.
You can feel there's still get things done.
Exactly. I mean, I totally agree.
Do you?
I do. Yes. I have to think about it, though.
I've derailed us already.
I have to think about it. Anyway,
Okay,
so
we
we've
gotta-
already wasted like a minute and a half on
No,
nothingness.
People want to know.
I'm very
about
nostalgic.
You. You're absolutely not.
I am quite nostalgic.
No.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
Mm.
You were not nostalgic.
I am.
About what?
Tennis shoes.
That's not nostalgia.
I am on a journey.
It's called a hobby.
No, it's not a hobby. I'm on a journey to get one of all of the specific types of Jordans from probably at least 2,
Yeah.
maybe 1. I don't really care about the ones, but 2 through 6.
Oh, that's cool. That also
Specific
confirms that I'm not sure
4,
you know what
5,
the
and 6.
definition of nostalgia is.
No. No, there's a reason. 4,
Oh,
5,
okay.
and 6 were the primary shoes that I wanted when I was in high school and couldn't have. And when I was in high school, I remember when the 4s were the shoe, and especially the white and the red and black ones. That was like a dream shoe. And then the 5s came out, and I had a friend in school who had 3 different of the 5s. He had the black metallic. Those are on the top of my list. Air Jordan 5 black metallic. I guess they're getting re-released here soon. So I've got some inside people I'm trying to work on. I'm going to get those if I can. And then there's and then he had the white and red and black pair. I don't remember what they're called. And then he had the grape or purple, the white, blue, and teal, whatever. So I wanted all of them. I was super jealous. And so I never really did pay attention to them much. But as I've gotten a little older, it's like,
You want
I
those.
really want those. So I want those for nostalgic reasons.
Yeah, I would call it competitive retribution.
Yeah.
But
What's wrong with that?
We'll move on.
Okay.
I want to do something different today. I just want to. There's a few different topics I want to hit.
Okay.
A lot going on. I don't remember the last time we've done this, if ever, but I just want to hit a few different things going on in the world, going on in culture.
4 or 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 topics.
Who knows? We'll see where we go.
Okay.
We've done something different
time
for this one. We actually have a timer.
We're going to try to keep it around
So
40. So we got 36
We'll
minutes.
try to
left.
keep it. I want to start with one thing on a selfish note that you won't care about.
Okay.
I may have mentioned it in passing.
Ayahuasca.
Nope. I am really bummed that Trevor Noah is officially leaving The Daily Show.
Yeah, you've been
He
crying
had-
about that every day. I think I've heard more about that than I have your faith in the last month.
That might be true. He has officially left The Daily Show, and I am really bummed about it. And somebody watching may think, or listening may think that's weird. He's obviously not a
little
Christ follower. He is extremely liberal. There's things when I listen to him that I agree with or don't agree with.
Kind of like you.
But I no.
Okay, sorry.
But I like him. Number one, he's extremely intelligent. I like him that even though he does lean farther left than most would, there's nuance and I think intelligence in his argument, and I've heard him argue on both sides. I love the international dynamic he brings. He's from South Africa, has traveled the world, brings a lot of intelligence and a lot of depth and texture. But I really like him. He got me through kind of the news. I'll hit Apple News during the day and get news different ways. But his comedic rendition of the news each night, I'll be honest, in some ways got me through quarantine.
Yeah.
When it first started, just hearing his take, he continued to do the show from his living room. And then earlier this year, I got to visit his country of origin, South Africa, and I read his autobiography while I was there. That kind of endeared him.
And then you had dinner with him in Atlanta.
Well, I did end up 2 months ago, I wouldn't say run into him, but having dinner at the table beside him because he was in Atlanta for taping of a show.
And the girl you were with, the girl you were on a date with, remember when she was... You remember when she was looking at him and he looked over and gave her the stink eye because she was staring and had her phone out or something and was taking a picture?
Yep.
And and that's when you found out he doesn't like you.
No, that means he didn't like what she was doing. I was very surprised. Yeah. But anyway, so I just have to throw that out. I am excited for his next steps. And honestly, kind of like a lot of people, he's one of the few people in the public world that I feel like is doing what a lot of people in the private sector are doing, which is he took 2020 to reevaluate his life, realized, hey, life is short. I miss traveling. I miss being with my friends and loved ones and family more. And so I'm going to go back and do the world of stand-up and spend 3 to 5 days in a different city in the world, learn their culture, do stand-up, go somewhere else. And so I'm excited for him, sad for me. Okay, on a more probably universal level,
For you.
let's talk about the World Cup.
The World Cup?
Have you been watching it?
Nah. I stopped. I got to admit.
All right, Mr. Sport.
I stopped once the U.S. lost to Netherlands.
That was sad.
Yeah. So it got to the second round. And the U.S. men's team has never done great in the World Cup.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And so
we redefine football. And
but I have been following American football.
Yeah. It's funny. I think I've told you, I grew up with an inherited disdain for soccer from my dad. Because I grew up in the Southeast. My dad coached every sport besides soccer. And growing up, he coached my baseball teams. And when people would miss baseball practice for soccer, those were probably the only times I've ever seen my dad mad that they would, quote unquote, pick the Yankee sport to flake out on baseball, America's pastime. Is not a happy camper. But my time in Argentina changed that for me. I grew to have an appreciation for it. Honestly, they are more diehard fans of soccer in Argentina than I'm telling you a Buckeye fan is in Ohio.
That's hard to believe.
I know it's hard to believe, but I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
It's true. But
I believe it.
There's a lot of sub-stories
like
related
that
to World Cup. First of all, I don't know if you have any strong opinions about this. A lot of the controversy was around should it even be in Qatar to begin with.
Yeah.
A country with...
Is it Qatar or is it Qatar?
I've heard both.
I have too.
I don't know.
But I've heard we pronounce it wrong. The world does when they say Qatar. But I hear everybody on every broadcast saying it that way. So I'm kind of like, you'd think that we'd get it right if that was the case. But I don't know that that's true. So Qatar.
Pretty atrocious history of human rights violations.
And how many people, like they're saying it was a pretty big cover-up for how many people actually died through forced labor to build all of the stadiums.
Well, the country wasn't qualified to hold it.
Yeah. And
by any measure.
And then, I mean, originally I think they tried to come out and say only 500 people died. But I've heard that it was thousands, possibly thousands. What are you doing there?
I'm drinking my coffee. It really bothers you when
it bothers me when you have to keep taking your... Yeah. Anyways, so thousands of people potentially. Don't know if that's
whole
true.
Reason they were there and shouldn't have been in the first place, linked to all the corruption in FIFA. Yeah. Which I started watching that. Did you watch the FIFA documentary on Netflix? Okay. Anyways. So you have that.
Yeah.
Right now, big news that I care about is that Argentina has won going on in the semifinals, which...
they're into the semifinals.
They're in the semifinals.
They haven't played semifinal match yet.
Yeah.
There's 4 teams left, right?
That's what I'm saying. They're going in to the semifinals.
Well, I didn't know if they had already played. I've not been keeping up on it lately.
Yeah, they beat Croatia yesterday. Huge big deal.
I will say,
having lived in Argentina, I always get, it's been a while, but I get a bit of pride every time Argentina does something, and I'm really cheering for Messi.
I'm pulling
a redemption story for Messi.
I'm pulling for Messi.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy if Argentina wins.
One other little subcultural thing is Morocco.
Yeah.
First Arab and African nation to go on to the semifinals. And they just upset Spain and Portugal it's kind of brought back. I think everything even with England and Queen Elizabeth this year going into the World Cup, I feel like there's been this reemergence of a conversation around colonialism.
Yeah.
Because Morocco beat Spain and Portugal, upset Spain and Portugal, two of their former colonizers. And now they're getting ready to play France. And so someone called it the anti-colonial trifecta.
Wow.
That if they beat France, because I didn't realize it wasn't until 1956 that colonialism formally ended in Morocco. That's not that long ago.
No.
So that's a whole thing. And then you were talking about the reporter that died.
Yeah.
Grant Wall.
Yeah. That was sad.
He was only, what, 48, 44?
I don't even know. That old. But I just remember, one of the things that I remember most about that story is kind of where we are culturally, is that the moment anything happens, everyone jumps to conclusions. And it was like, because he went over there and he wore this gay pride shirt, kind of honoring his brother in a place that is anti,
right?
And he was getting death threats that, all initial reports are he was killed.
Yep.
Foul play.
Yep.
And it comes to find out, no, he had an aortic aneurysm that erupted. That's what his wife released the information when they did an autopsy when his body got back to New York.
Sad.
And so, sadly,
it's very sad.
Died. And apparently, I didn't know this, but one of his big articles that he did, he wrote one of the original big articles of LeBron James on Sports Illustrated.
Really?
Yeah. He used to cover basketball as well and other things. And so it's like, wow, he's been doing this for a while. So it was sad. That's a sad thing.
I think one last thing to hit on really quick with World Cup that has been kind of on that note of what you mentioned in passing is to watch the cultural clash of especially a lot of Western countries go into Qatar.
Yeah.
And it's a stadium.
Good.
I was just going to say it's a stadium that doesn't allow alcohol. Yeah. It's a stadium that they've kind of gone back and forth on how they're going to handle gay rights, people being refused entry.
Yeah.
That were wearing rainbow. And then what was the team that they refused to allow them to wear the equal rights on their arms, so they put they replaced it with something else that was more of a subtext.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but there was also, I just remember there was and I don't know how true this is. Again, there's a lot going on in Iran. Another person was just executed for protest. Yep. And when the U.S. played Iran, I remember hearing that, I guess, Iran's first game. Again, it's really hard to tell anymore what's real, but apparently a lot of the Iranian players were not singing the national anthem. Yeah. And supposedly they got threats after that from potentially their government. Their families were threatened that if they did not. So I think they also made a statement as well in the U.S. I think they sang, but I thought they did something on this. I don't know. Yeah. There was a bit of a statement they were trying to make as well.
Well, also, did you see? I'm going to get some of this wrong. Lydia can fact check and maybe send something, but it was I believe the U.S. Soccer Federation around that same moment put out a post that only for 24 hours that when we displayed the Iranian flag,
I saw
it was
that.
without the Islamic Republic symbol.
Yeah.
And so
I remember there was.
I will say one thing before we move on from World Cup is it just reminded me of the whole thing. I thought it was a great observation. I think it was Erwin McManus brought up one time of when you look at Western values and how they clash around the world depending on the cultural DNA of where they are, and how interesting it's been to watch. Just it's not bigoted or Islamic phobic to say that certain cultural values do not translate easily to certain cultures, especially Islamic cultures. And Islamic countries would say that, Islamic leaders would say that some of the things that the way we define freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression.
Well, it goes beyond that.
Women's rights.
I was going to say, you can take that all the way over to Taiwan, to Beijing, to China. What's going on in China? Yeah.
It's just interesting because I think like a lot of times on the far left, one of the accusations is that Christianity can be repressive. And I just think it's ironic because even though, look, we're not a Christian nation, we need to stop, I think on the right, we need to stop trying to pretend or propagate that we are a Christian nation. But at the same time, America and the whole miracle of democracy did emerge from a Judeo-Christian worldview. And it did emerge from the soil of those values. And that's why it's the first time we've really seen, in modern, really in history, that we've seen something like democracy that holds the values it has, where people can have freedom. And it's interesting to watch over the past decades where when we've tried to spread democracy around the world, where it has stuck and where it is not stuck.
Yeah.
And we ignore the cultural roots that underpin that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
True. So all right, I'm not watching World Cup.
Okay.
Maybe I'll watch the final.
How about this?
Yeah.
If Argentina gets the World Cup, we need to
Have a party?
have a watch party.
We'll see.
And we'll get Steven Resnat to come over and make empanadas
Okay.
and steak
If there's going to be empanadas, I'll
and
be there.
chorizo and chimichurri.
Okay.
How's that sound?
I'll eat all that.
All right. Let's talk about Brittney Griner.
Okay.
Especially because what you just said about Grant Wall and how a lot of people jump to conclusions
Yeah.
the moment that story hit. It seemed like a lot of conclusions were reached immediately when the Brittney Griner story dropped. What were your reactions to her release and then to her reactions?
It was mixed. I mean, it's hard. It's like one of those things. I would never wish for anybody to, an American, let alone probably a lot of people that shouldn't belong in a Russian prison, be there. I can't imagine the conditions. I've heard lots of stories of what it's like in Russian prisons. And so I was glad for Brittney Griner. I had mixed feelings.
Yeah.
I was glad that she got released because I thought this is one of those situations. Again, when you go to another country, you have to understand you're stepping into their rules, and she went over there with something illegal. I think this is one of those cases too, though, where you'd have to kind of say, man, it doesn't feel like the punishment fits the crime.
Yeah.
It's like 9-10 years in penitentiary
I think
in Russia for some. Well, I thought it was vaping oil. I thought she had it for not whether or not how she was using it and had too much on her, whatever. She probably knew better and probably thought this is not a big a deal, And then I think if all this thing is going on politically, she also then probably gets used a little bit as a pawn. So I was glad to hear that she got released because I don't wish that on anybody. That's awful. At the same time, I'm thinking, man, we had to give back a warlord.
Yeah.
Merchant of Death was his nickname, a guy who was active in trading arms internationally. And so then you're kind of like, okay, so let's do a prisoner swap. She had a little CBD oil on her. This guy is, getting weapons in the hands of criminals and other people around the world.
Not that it matters.
Fair, but
I think it's THC.
Was it THC?
I thought so.
Okay.
Not that it matters.
CBD oil, that's probably just stretch. It's probably THC.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
it didn't seem like it was like super equal in the offenders and what they did for the swap, but I think I think we were trying to do everything we could. Now the thing I thought that was kind of, I want to say, sad was the amount of people that I just saw that the same day immediately are posting all these pictures and these things that has Brittney Griner and then has the Marine. I can't remember his name now. I was looking at it just a minute ago before I was like, but it has a picture of Brittney and this Marine on the same one, and it was kind of like, see, President Biden picks Brittney. Can you believe the nerve of this administration that they would do that? And it's like, I thought it was, again, one of those things. Let's just jump to conclusions and make everything political, and then if you wait just a day and read the articles, you find out that Russia wasn't even offering him up. He was there for espionage. Whether he ever was a spy or not,
they were clarifying it that day.
Yeah, that day, and
the U.S. Intel said no, they wouldn't let us.
We tried.
Right.
We tried, and so they basically, said Russia said it's Brittney or no one.
Mm-hmm.
So they took. Yeah. They would. I mean, get her back. I mean, I think that's great. I'm sad. It's sad that Marine is still over there and they couldn't get him back. I think even Brittney, it was kind of cool just to see, like, just she really, and probably with great empathy, express her emotion and everything, not just for coming back, but for the Marine that's still over there.
Right.
Like, and wants to try to help do whatever she can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's much she can do. So it's just, I don't know. I just think it's a little ridiculous that we just turn any kind of moment into a political opportunity to take a shot when we don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
Why don't we get all the facts first before we just start throwing rocks?
Well, because it is a lot lazier and easier to react, especially when it's already in line with your political frustrations.
Yeah.
So if you already hate President Biden and you are vulnerable to whatever anti-Biden sentiment comes your way, you're going to repost it.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias.
Right.
It was a day that showed we've not really moved, we've not really grown much in the terrain of echo chamber knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a little, because look, I agree with you. To me, I was mixed. It doesn't seem like it was a very equal trade. So I have that feeling. And look, I'm not I don't have any feelings that, President Biden's done a great job. I got a lot that I differ with him on, or that I think or ways that I would differ of ways he's handled things. But I at least have enough awareness of when it comes to international diplomacy, there is complexities that you probably need to figure out the whole story from across the board from all sides before you just repost. I saw a meme reposted. This just shows the simplistic level of thinking. That was Brittney Griner, and it basically said something like someone who hates the country, someone who gave their life for the country, someone who did. Guess which one Biden picked? Yeah. And I was like, is this our level of thinking? Number one, what if she does hate our country? She's a human being that's a U.S. citizen. Isn't part of being in America you can have whatever feeling or opinion you want to about the country? It was almost like, first off, that doesn't indict or determine her value and how much more we should fight for somebody based on their political affiliations or how they feel like the country's doing. Number one. Number two, that wasn't even the narrative. Like you said, they didn't even have a chance to bring him home. No. So it would be great if they could, for sure. But this is, right now, I don't think our relationship with Russia is very good. So, I will say I am kind of surprised that it happened at all. Yeah. Just with the climate that we're in with, Russia and Ukraine and what Putin has kind of, stated about the U.S. and the West getting involved in helping Ukraine. Like, I'm surprised it even happened. So I'm glad for Brittney that she's able to be back. That would be pretty awful to, it seems like a small thing to. Yeah, regardless of her politics, her lifestyle, whatever, she's a human. Yeah. I'm glad she's back. Yeah. And hoping and believing that this Marine can also be rescued. Yep. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to something I know you are slightly excited about. And that is there has been you don't want to talk about THC? You want to? I'm like, dude, I got nothing to add. I wanted to segue into a conversation around THC, ayahuasca, mental health. We'll save that for another time. Let's save that when we have a whole episode next year. Let's wait until we get into 23, and let's do one on because there's honestly, until I read Will Smith's autobiography, I didn't even know about ayahuasca. Like, I was not aware of it, and then I've listened to a few Tim Ferriss episodes that you've sent me, and he's all about pharmacology and all kinds of things related to that. And so it is fascinating that there are conversations, and then we've heard other people talk about ayahuasca, and then I want to have a conversation about metabolic psychiatry and some of the things that I was sharing with you. But we will say that for another time. Yeah, basically what he wants you to know is you should try keto next year. It will help your mental health. Okay, we'll move on and save that for another time. So, nuclear fusion. That's pretty fascinating. I've read probably four articles, and I've had 3 people sending me, did you see this? I said to you, and you were like, oh, yeah. I've read all you and Zach and everybody who sent to me. Biggest developments in science in decades. For decades, they've been aiming for the 21st century. Right now, it is the biggest breakthrough, potential breakthrough. And so you have geeked out on this, I'm sure, far more than I have. I just know that for 60 years now, we have been aiming 192 lasers at a tube. We have not been doing that for 60 years. I think for about 60 years. Not 192 lasers. These are more recent, where we added all the different, added more and more lasers. Trying to figure out the combinations, heat, temperature, and the layman's terms are nuclear fusion. So it's contained fusion. Uncontained is nuclear bombs. Yeah. But the contained fusion is basically us harnessing the stars and the sun in a box. Is how they're framing it. So how does that work, and what are the implications? Well, I think the biggest implication in this breakthrough, this is the first time I think that they've even been able to do this in the lab, which is why it's so significant. Also, there are like multiple labs around the world that have been working on this. UK's got there's multiple. Yeah. They're all over. And Europe, all through Europe itself, they have labs, Jet Lab and other ones that have been working on this. And
So it's kind of also cool. The U.S. happened. It's kind of like I feel like it's a little bit. It's like
it's one science cup.
It's it's kind of like the race to put a man on the moon.
Yeah,
that's what it's kind of felt like a little bit.
It did feel like that.
No, I think it's going to be a shared. It's all shared information. I think in the world of science, but just the idea of generating energy from nuclear fusion that we could potentially harness, and zero carbon emissions as well.
Yeah. So because they say it'll change travel, it'll change energy, right?
Eventually. We're still probably decades.
They say we're decades away from being able to commercialize it or truly leverage it.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just kind of a lot.
Because even environmentally, like I was looking at some of the things. I mean, they
took all these lasers, they shoot them into a probably a pinprick size hole in a gold little capsule. That inside of it has frozen two atoms of frozen versions of hydrogen. I can't remember, tritium and deuterium or something. Deuterium.
That sounds good. That sounds about right.
It is. It's something close to that. I remember I was reading about it. It was a while ago though, and they're frozen and they put a pulse of these lasers. And so it's all a matter of like this math and science of figuring out how much energy, how much, that is like a billionth of a second of a pulse on it. And it just from that laser, that light, it heats it up. And so the idea was you had to get it to just the right temperature, the right thing for nuclear fusion to happen. And then on the outside, on the back end, it will basically give off that same laser light energy, and they were able to measure the amount of joules in and the amount out.
It was because they knew they'd achieved it.
We've done this before.
Right.
This is not the first time that we've done it. They've been doing this for a while. Even earlier this year, they figured out they can do this, create nuclear fusion inside of it that doesn't blow up. It's very small, and that it shoots it out. But not to this point have we figured out like the formula.
Yeah.
So far, again, I say formula where we can put, I think it was like 2 megajoules
where we can generate
more than we expend,
right.
Which is what you need to create if you're going to use it to put on a power grid.
Isn't that how you've achieved it? Is when you generate more energy than you expended?
Yes, that's where you have. However, this is in such a single microscopic. Like we figured out something to think that we're really this close to putting nuclear fusion power plant on a grid to power all these houses. That's a whole different story of having to on demand all the time be able to create this same type of, you know what I mean? And then how do you do it at scale, and how do you do it safely? And it is like one article says, is this the Kitty Hawk moment? One article called it the Kitty Hawk moment, right? Is this the, hey, Orville and Wilbur Wright, they flew 20 feet in the air, or whatever it was, 100 feet in the air. You know what I mean? We got to play 100. We aren't flying people transatlantic yet.
Right.
That's not safe. So I think it could be.
It's going to have to it's going to have to go from public government funding to even private sector funding. Like
it is fascinating because it could be really clean energy.
Yeah, it said, here's a few of the things it said. It would produce clean electricity, clean vehicle fuels. One thing said that if we can really learn to do this well, this is literally like when you add a power drill to your toolbox.
Yeah.
You're literally, they said, you're putting the sun and the stars in a box.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is probably more, I mean, I think we'll see it in some articles today, and most people will probably ignore it or never even think of it. But I think it is one of those potential scientific, it's not even really a discovery because they've been doing it, but almost a breakthrough. It's the first time they've been able to do that. And I guarantee the whole scientific world has taken notice of this. But it's those kind of breakthroughs that will lead toward really significant technological advancements for humanity.
Yeah.
Because if we can create and figure out a way to do power that's safe, nuclear power that's clean, it's not fossil fuel, it's not solar, it's not electric, and where you have to deal with batteries and the mess that makes, all of these things. Well, it could be a game changer for our globe. Pretty fascinating. I think, again, we're so I don't even know if it'll be cool to see if in our lifetime, if you have nuclear cars. How does that work? Could you have nuclear cars? It might still need batteries, I would assume, for some. I don't know how it would work, but I mean, would we have nuclear power cars?
I've heard right now people have tried nuclear cars that would just went horrible.
They just blow up.
Well, no,
No,
they
it's
just said they got sick. Like they just. We haven't
Really?
We just haven't learned how to do it
Really?
yet. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, anyways, we're gonna harness the power of the sun.
Hey, we're on a good pace. What else you want to talk about? What else is going on?
I don't know. We better talk about the one we've been talking about,
What's that?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. We had a little group text debate going on Sunday night. Why don't you open up that can of worms?
Oh, I think it's. I feel like this is one of those situations that I hate to make a comparison in a different way, but I probably shouldn't do this. This will get me in trouble. But I feel like it's almost like,
You talk about President Trump?
yeah, I was going to say it's almost like the way I saw Donald Trump going into the 2016 election versus how I see him now. I feel like that for whatever the exposure of Elon Musk continues to reveal some things that aren't so great about Elon Musk. I think he is probably on our planet. I think he's probably one of the most fascinating people on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably one of the, we could argue, one of the most successful. You can make that argument. One of the brightest people on our planet. When you think about the companies, and I think he has far more companies. I keep learning of new ones. Like I didn't even know about Neuralink and where it was in the process, which he just applied to the FDA to begin human trials of putting microchips in the base of their brain.
Not to mention Starlink. I should have brought this up.
Starlink as well. Starlink. He's
almost helping save Ukraine.
Yeah,
the most important war since World War II.
So you got. I mean, Neuralink, Starlink. You have obviously Tesla, which I think he first kind of came on the map for that. Fantastic technology. I have wanted one for a really long time. Then you think about SpaceX. I mean, here's a guy. It's like, hey, the government would not fund him to create his electric car company. The government wanted nothing to do with it.
Right.
He's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And he does. And then it takes off. And then it's like, oh, everybody else better jump on it. And the government's going to give money to everybody else.
And then President Biden, what was it, last year, he did this whole thing of like celebrating the progress
ignored
of
it.
EV and mentioned Ford, mentioned all these. They mentioned Tesla.
Yeah, who really paved
Tesla,
the way.
They pioneered it.
They did. And so those achievements are amazing. And then it's like SpaceX. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go to Mars. I wouldn't put it past them to figure it out. And then, again, the government doesn't want anything to do with it. And then wait a minute, he's got technology where they reuse the same. Oh my gosh, we should contract him to help do this stuff because he's doing it cheaper and better than the government could.
Yep.
So you have SpaceX, you have the underground boring. I remember when the hydro tunnel, I forget what they're called, but I mean, he had this plan of doing underground boring between Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York City.
I thought he still was.
I think they still are. They might be doing it right now. I don't know.
I think he was doing. You talking about the underground transportation?
Yep. And but it's called hydro something. But anyways, he's got an underground boring company where the goal was to create basically a highway underneath the underneath the ground that you could basically get. I mean, it was like from New York City to Washington D.C. in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like just, I'm going to work. I work in Washington, D.C. I go 2 days a week. I'm working remote. I mean, just the possibilities are endless. So that's fascinating. I mean, you think about it. And then he buys Twitter for $44 billion. And then you're like, oh, with all the good, there's definitely some bad.
Doesn't seem to be going too well.
I don't know about the whole Twitter thing.
There was new news this morning.
Oh, really?
The Safety and Trust Council or board was dissolved at Twitter.
So what do you need safety for?
So literally all of these people collectively, and I think a lot of them on a voluntary basis, I could be wrong, internationally have been coming together to try to keep it safe, keep it ethical, and
free speech
been dissolved.
Free speech. So that's gone. And you want to talk about safety. This is also so the thing that I find kind of most interesting about Elon Musk, and I guess the almost the question that it makes me ponder. What is our definition? What is a definition of successful look like? Because when I think about Elon Musk, I mean, first of all, I think right now I think he's considered the wealthiest man in the world. I don't know how it works.
That
with
just
all
dropped.
that drop that he. I mean, I don't know what happens is like, okay, if you put all your money into Twitter and then it loses, okay, it drops, which means that you're worth, $2 billion down to 1.98. But I don't know what that means. But here's a guy that I think you could argue is like serial entrepreneur, who has created some technology that probably, I would argue, since Steve Jobs, is probably revolutionizing the world as we know it. This is a guy who I think is undoubtedly, one of the world's current greatest thinkers in regards to technology, humanity, all these things we're going. At the same time, we see the dark side that we find out of his leadership. We get the dark side of what does that person become? Because it seems like you get that much power, that much money, that much influence. All of a sudden now you see this narcissistic type of dominant leader come out, and there is a trail, wake of employees.
Right.
This goes way back. Tesla. I mean, there's articles back in 2017 that came out that said that Tesla factory was one of the most dangerous places to work. That it was on par with dangerous places like they said, what were they? Sawmills where you're working around saws and cutting up wood all day long, or slaughterhouses. And there, I was fascinated because I was looking at an article about him and the way he leads and the way he just, you look at him wrong. You say something wrong. You tweet something wrong. You're fired. Just gone. Like, I don't care. I'll get rid of you, you know? And when the report came out how terrible it was, their response was, they didn't dispute it, that Tesla was learning how to be a car company and that what matters is the future. And so that was in 2017. That was a response to a really awful safety record.
Future as in
what Tesla was creating.
Like the visionary future they're creating, or the future as in how they're responding moving forward?
No. I don't think that's not what I got from it. What matters is the future, not what Tesla creates. So then it's like, okay, so what matters is the future we're creating, even at the expense of the people who are dying or who are getting hurt to create it. And I just think I think it just poses this real question. It's like, okay, I see this Elon Musk who is creating stuff for our world that everybody really appreciates, and it's like, well, I'm really glad we're doing all this stuff. At the same time, there's this wake of carnage, and that's I'm not talking like a Stalin, I'm not talking about Mao. I'm talking about there's a wake of carnage in the way it seems like he treats people.
Well, even supposedly kind of quote unquote family and children.
Yeah. And it's like, are we as humans, are we successful if our character reveals that that's who we are? I'm not taking anything away from what he has accomplished and celebrating that. And I think he's fascinating. I'm not an Elon hater like Zach, who's been on here, is. He just does not. It's like, no, I love the stuff he creates. It's fascinating to me, but I don't know that I would, and I'm not saying it is, if it takes that type of person to be that level of success in our world standards, then I don't think I'd want to be successful.
No.
I don't think that I would want to get to the end of creating all that and be alone. I don't think I'd want to get to the end and there's nobody on any of his, he rotates executive boards and all that stuff. And to me, I think half of the joy of the journey is who you're doing it with.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I got all these mixed feelings about him as he's taking over Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, good. I mean, we need a little bit of balance in the social media world when it comes to politically and all this. But then you see, it's like, this doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
So, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Mine would be similar. There's a lot of layers to it what do you think of Elon? Well, I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's kind of two extremes right now. There's the left seems to hate Elon, and they seem to, and especially everything that's happened with Twitter, which it does seem to be kind of catastrophic the way he's handled Twitter. It's just to them.
I keep thinking he's doing it on purpose.
So
he knows what he's doing. I don't know that's true.
So here's the thing. I was going to say the other extreme is people, usually on the right, that would say, no, Elon's amazing. And even now, It's almost like the same thing you hear with Kanye right now. There's a lot of people with both Kanye and Elon that's like, nope, they know exactly what they're doing. Just wait and see. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I just have to say on kind of a basic level, I really like Elon.
Yeah.
I think it's not surprising to me that there's brokenness there. And I agree with you. The way I define my scoreboard for success is going to be different, especially as a follower of Jesus.
Yeah.
This sounds really spiritual, but success to me is faithfulness, faithfulness to God. And success is what's going on in my soul and what's going on in my relationships with other human beings. Jesus says you gain the world, but if you lose your soul, what do you have? You got nothing.
Yep.
So if I'm not being successful on the inside and who I am and who I'm becoming where it matters, and if I'm not successful in loving the people around me well, then everything else may look like it's a 10 on the scoreboard, but it's a negative. Yeah. So that's the way I view that.
Or how do we not use people?
Or how do we not use
to advance ideas and technology?
Yeah.
It's great.
It's interesting.
Technology.
I saw a tweet from a church planter I know in Woodstock, Georgia. He planted a church 7 years ago, and he put a tweet today. He said, when we first planted, even when we were first planting our church, our goal was to immediately start planting other churches soon. He said, but I've found that I have to really walk the tightrope of the difference between investing in people and their lives and building the kingdom through them versus using people as a means to a vision.
Sure.
And it's like, wow, like how, there's all this for somebody that loves people and is futuristic. I feel like that's always going to be the tension to walk.
Yeah.
How do you do that and love people well and constantly search your heart, constantly search your motives and love people more than systems or programs?
Yep.
But when I look at Elon, I guess maybe just from a really maybe too broad of a standpoint, I'm just like, no, this is a mad genius who's creating the future.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for people like him. I'm so thankful that he has paved the way, and the globe, the environmental globe is going to thank us for millennia to come for paving the way for EV to be popularized.
Nah, we're going to skip over that for nuclear cars.
That's far away. Okay. But for EV, for outer space breakthroughs, for Starlink to help save the war in Ukraine.
You didn't even mention that the Artemis launch that we did back in November.
The Artemis
brought the capsule back from all the way around the moon. That's the first time. I told you this. I read that. It was the first time we've gone into deep space.
Yeah.
And I mean, we sent satellites in and brought things back.
Well, there's that.
Since I think pretty much putting a man on the moon.
I mean, this year's been huge in science. When you think of that, you think of nuclear fusion, and you think of the telescope.
JWST.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But anyways, when I think of all the things he's done, to me, when it comes to Twitter, I see that as an aberration of someone who's filled with hubristic kind of personality, over arrogant and confident, and his genius did not translate, and his arrogance actually self-sabotaged. And instead of using wisdom in something that he didn't have as much expertise in, his strengths became his weakness. And who knows what the end result is? We don't know the end of the story yet, but right now it doesn't look like that. But even in terms of that, and I know for me, I've just not been on Twitter in 15 years. I view it as a cesspool anyways. Yeah. It had a leftish agenda before, has more of a rightish agenda now. This sounds bad, but for me, I'm like, who cares? I don't think it's good.
It's still going to be a cesspool.
Yes. I don't think it's good the level of, obviously, of hate speech that has arisen in there. But again, it's almost apples and oranges because there's so much hate speech and bias and agendaed kind of what's multiplied and popularized before he got there as there is now. It just looks different.
Yeah.
There's hate or bigotry or silencing on the left or right. And so I'm not excusing any of that. But for me, I just look at Elon and I'm like, this is a mad genius who's helping create the future in multiple fields. And if he screws up Twitter, selfishly, I don't really care.
I don't care.
But on a personal level, absolutely. Would I love him before he dies to encounter the one thing that actually matters, which is a life-changing experience with Jesus and a soul that is filled up with life in God and with love for people, and for him to find a sense of wholeness where there may be fracture. Of course, I'd want that for anybody.
Yeah.
But for me, I just look at Elon and I just think, man, like this is a guy that we tend to demonize people that are successful. We tend to demonize people that become wealthy. We tend to demonize people that just take great, crazy risks in creating the future. But I'm like, man, create some more EV, create some more Starlinks, be a modern day Iron Man, and at least remain centered enough to help us fight the bad guy. I don't know.
All right. It's good.
Those is a lot of my thoughts.
Yep. It's good.
And
Hey, we did pretty good.
We
We're
did
only
pretty
four
good.
and a half
Only
minutes
four-
over, so we're going to end
you
it.
mentioned, actually,
say
I
it.
won't go there because I won't be.
No, let's save it.
I just want to say this.
Mm.
And here is why, in some of the troubling things that Elon says that really do trouble me, this is the weird part. This is what I mentioned the other night. This is why it doesn't bother me as bad. He doesn't claim to be a Christian.
And we got visited by the Grinch. You look pretty good there,
Weird.
Grinch. You're
So-
a mean one.
Early Merry
Mr.
Christmas.
Grinch. You really are right. Okay, 5 minutes. We're done.
If you are not watching,
Yeah.
you just got surprised by the Grinch.
Yeah.
But I just have to say that because to me, the greatest damage happens when people say or do horrible things who don't claim to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
So you know what? Like, I don't expect Elon Musk to be held to a Christian morality. He doesn't claim to be a Christian.
No, he didn't. Hopefully a good human.
Yeah, you
Might not
want
be
him to
Christian.
a good
I think
human.
we can at least hold him to the value of being a good human.
Yeah.
And care about humanity.
Right.
And he does I think he does in a weird sense. I think he thinks about the future he's creating for humanity.
Yeah.
So I think he does. I think I'd be a little careful of creating a future for all of humanity at the expense of some humanity.
Yes.
I think it's like,
Yes.
I think there's a way to do both.
Right.
I think just maybe what's hard is actually becoming that successful and still having humility.
Right.
Maybe that's hard.
Yes.
Maybe that's what we're
Yes.
seeing. So anyway, it's a topical episode. 45 minutes. Did pretty good.
We got it.
We did it.
All right.
Hey,
Until next time.
come on.
Thank you for joining us for
And-
the X Podcast.
I
Yes.
need to say Merry Christmas because I think when this one comes out, we're like right at Christmas.
Is it?
It's going to be Christmas.
Okay. From our podcast family to yours, and from the Grinch
And the
who
Grinch.
just joined us,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We really hope it's amazing for you, whatever season of life you're in. And let us know anything we can do to help. And I don't know. Let us know your thoughts, any questions you have, any encouragement. Let us know what maybe some of your favorite episodes have been.
You can send an email to podcast@thex.church. No .com.
No, .com.
Nothing else.
Podcast
Podcast at the
dot
large
church.
symbol. The X
Dot.
church. That's it.
That's it.
Send us an email, comment, like, or share. We appreciate it. Bye.